Hi, Julie here with paperbeadcrafts.com, and today on paper bead making I'm going to show you a technique that I've actually been doing for a long time, since 1996. This is one way of making paper beads with scraps that you have of different types of papers. Like, for example, these here are security envelopes that I've cut up into itty bitty pieces and wrapped around a copy paper core, and these have a core of white copy paper. I just cut the piece and wrapped it around, and this one here has a core of a paper bag, and I printed this on the computer and printed it out into little squares and wrapped it around. I call these wrapped paper beads. I'm not sure what else you'd call them. And then this one here is wrapped with cigarette wrappers, the kind that you get inside the box of cigarettes. My husband smokes, I don't. But he saves me the inner wrappers when I ask him to. And that's what these beads are made with white paper core. And these here are scrapbook paper wrapped around construction paper. And so I'm going to go ahead and show you. Oh yeah, these have construction paper on the inside and cigarette wrappers on the outside. So, and I actually do save a lot of my scraps. I use a special container that I have, and let me just go ahead and put these aside, and we'll get started on how I do this. Okay, so basically I have a whole bunch of little scraps that I've been saving for years, and what I do is I save them in these little plastic boxes that you can get in a case. I've done a video on bead storage using this technique, and I'll provide a link to that massive bead storage video that I have. It's the same idea, but this time I'm saving my scraps of paper. And some of these are sticker paper, like for example, let's see, not this one here, but this one. If you've been following me along at all for years, I used to sell paper bead rollers with this design on it. I used to make them with paper handles and wrapped a decorative wrapper around them. This one's one of the designs, and I have a few others. This was one of the designs, and some of these are actual sticker paper. And sticker paper works as wraps too. You could do that. It works. And these are the cigarette wrappers that I've cut apart. And these, wrap around cores. And that's why I'm saving all these. I've got another security envelope, and another one, and another one. Security envelopes are great for getting little scraps, because they're colorful, they're fun to look at, they're little squigglies, and they're cheap and they're free, basically. Don't throw away those security envelopes. Cut them up and use them as wraps. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a wrap, and I'm going to use blue construction paper, which I have right here, and I'm going to show you how I go about making these. It's really easy. In fact, I think I'm going to use this as the blue paper. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, I like that combination. So I'm going to use this blue paper and these little pieces of paper as my wraps, and I'm going to make these 5/8 of an inch wide. So let me show you how I get to that point. And bear with me, I am going to go get my rotary cutter and ruler. Okay, so here's my ruler, and here is my rotary cutter, and this is what I'm going to use to cut this paper. But first, I'm going to get myself a template. And today I'm going to use a universal template, because I'm going to end up cutting this paper in half to achieve what I want to do, because I don't really want fat beads, and frankly I don't think these will wrap all the way around them if they're too fat. So I'm going to cut this paper in half this way so I can get the strips this way. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I want to see how long this paper is, and the paper is almost 12 inches, so I'm going to go slightly under 6 inches. So let's do that. Alright, so we've got to set this here at 5. I'm going to go almost 11. If it's not perfect, it's really actually, you know, nobody's perfect, so just be as close as you can. And I use a rotary cutter this way. Cut the paper in half. And then I'm going to bring the two halves together that I cut and lay them down like this. And I have a whole bunch of these little binder clips that I use. And I printed off a universal template that I'm going to use to mark my 5/8 inch lines. This saves a little bit of time so I don't have to use a ruler. And the way I do that, this is available on Etsy in the 5/8 inch universal marking template bundle or set. You can download that and use it. And this is printed on sticker paper, which makes it really easy to use. Basically, you're making your own tape, you know, marking tape. So I'm going to cut these on the dotted. There's dotted lines on here. You can't really see them on the camera, but they're there. And I'm going to cut off this top portion first. Okay, if you have a guillotine cutter, you can use that too. Just remember, over time, your guillotine cutter, if you use a lot of sticker paper, will get gummed up. So I use Glue Gun to clean that. It works really well. Just a little tip. Okay, so here is one strip. And then I'm going to cut a second strip because I know I'm going to need it. I'll probably need a third strip too to go across that whole 9-inch section. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut off three strips. Very simple, very easy. Okay, so I have my 3 strips. Going to set that aside. Oh, by the way, another thing that you can use, which I haven't cut these up yet, you can use gift wrap. It's a great way to use gift wrap because it's so thin. You know, just wrap it around your cores. Whatever color cores, whatever type of paper you want to use, it's totally up to you. It's a great way to recycle magazine pages because they're so thin. You just bundle a bunch together, roll them up, and go from there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stick one of these to the top. I'm going to set this aside so I don't get confused. I am going to layer them because I'm going to cut both stacks together at the same time. And this has a split in the middle, which makes it really easy to, I used to use Digi Orange, but now I found a less expensive option for my sticker paper, and it actually happens to be made in the US, so I buy that. And I'm standing up so that I can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to line this right up near the top. And I'm going to cut one end off. And since these are evenly spaced, because I'm doing them as tube beads, I just need to continue on. So I'm going to cut off what I need, which is slightly more. And I do that before I take off the backing. And I do this all the time. Because I keep sticker paper on hand because this is how I label my boxes of paper bead rollers that I offer. And the paper bead rollers are available on my website at paperbeadcrafts.com. Just follow the links from there. And then I'm going to turn it over and do the same thing on this side. But I'm going to make sure that I start it on this corner up here so that it will match up with the bottom one. Okay. Start with the big piece and work my way across. And all of these strips are marked underneath so that you can tell what size they are if you keep them in a notebook or a 3-ring binder in a folder like I do for my leftovers. Then you'll know what size the strips are without having to remember. Okay, so I'm going to get the rest of the other piece that I need. And I'm going to cut off that there because I don't need it. I'm going to cut off that end. Should have done that before I checked. Okay, so I'm going to see how far I need to go. And then the scraps, you can use them for other projects when you need to mark other projects. Alright, so that's marked. And set all this aside. Grab my other sheet here. Put them together. And what you want to do is you want to clip them with your binder clips on the opposite side of the end that you're going to start cutting. That way they won't shift on you and move around. And you could do a whole stack of these if you wanted to in this way and use a guillotine cutter. But for now, for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to start like this. And since they're marked, I'm going to use my rotary cutter. And we're going to get started. I'm just going to cut the first couple and I'll do the rest off camera. Because the whole idea is to show you what I go through to make these beads, these wrapped beads. Okay, so we've got 2 strips cut. And then I would cut the rest of them later on. And this paper comes off, let's see. If you're careful, it'll come off somewhat clean. Just have a light touch. And throw those away. Those are you don't need those anymore. Okay, so I should have 2 5/8 inch tube beads, and hopefully these will fit. I didn't even check. Okay, yes, they will fit. Okay, so I'm going to grab a couple of those. And I like to glue them on first, so let me grab some glue. You don't have to do it this way if you don't want to, but I'm going to. And I'm going to get my glue palette. And I have a needle tool that I use to attach, to put my glue on. And let's see. Oh, by the way, here's a sneak, never mind. Well, I have a sneak peek here. It's a new adjustable paper bead rollers coming in a few months. I make them myself. They're a little bit different from the ones I sell now. And that's all I'm telling you for now. I'll post a video when I've got them going. Okay, let's get back to this wrapped bead. Just a teaser. Alright, so I'm going to put some glue in my little palette here. Now, one thing about construction paper, the reason why I don't mind using it for wrapped beads is because once you get this paper on it, it's not going to come off. I found that if you use just construction paper for making paper beads and you dip them, they can come undone really easily. So that's why I don't mind using them for wrapped beads. Now, my cutting might not have been perfect, so I'm going to check the top and the bottom. And yes, they are the same size. And this is probably also true with this one. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to glue one of my pieces of paper on. Right on the end. Of course, like I said before, you don't really need to do this, but I like to. And you're going to put that piece of paper on. And you can do that to all of them all at the same time, you know, and wait until they're all done, and then you roll them up. And I'm going to grab a number 1 paper bead roller, which is also the equivalent of 5/64 inch. And there it is. There's the one I'm going to use today. It's a slotted one. I also have adjustable length bead rollers as well, in the same size. Okay, so then you just start rolling it up, as you normally would. So I dip my beads when I to glaze them. What I do is I dip them in I string them first on 50-pound fishing line, which actually I have a whole bunch right here, which you can barely see, but it is here. I put a loop on one end with a crimp bead to keep it in place. Let me finish rolling this up and I'll show you what I mean. Alright. If you already follow me, then you know that I already do this with regards to the glazing of the beads. But these are tube beads. You have to glaze them you know, you have to treat them a little bit different than the normal tapered beads, which are also known as bicone beads. Okay, so there's a wrapped bead, and let it dry and then string it on your fishing line. All right, and then one way that I make sure that they're flat is I push them down. I push them down on my work surface. And if you have a needle tool, you can always clean out the inside. Let me grab my needle tool. Got one here. This just makes it really round and clear in the center. It's not really necessary with slotted beads that you make with a slotted bead tool, but I like to do it with all my beads. It's definitely more important with when you use the adjustable length bead rollers, because those are made with a half round wire that I buy and make. All right, so there is a wrapped bead. That's how I've been making them for 20 years. Like I said, I've been doing this since 1996. And then I, really started 2007 is really when I got serious with this. Okay, so that's it on how to make the wrapped beads. For stringing them, I make a loop at one end and apply a crimp bead to the end, and then I string my beads on. But with tube beads, it's a little different. When you string them, you want to make sure that you separate them somehow. So one way that I do it, and have done it, and it works okay, is I use the black Mr. coffee stirrers, and I cut them up into 1/8" pieces and put those between each bead. Another way that you can do this is using those size 6 seed beads, the cheap ones. Don't use the good expensive ones. Get the El Cheapos. They're also known as E-beads. Those are a good size. 4mm beads are good to use also. But in my opinion, the best way to do this is make yourself some, bicone beads too. The kind that taper on both ends down to a point, and put those in between each bead. And just do 2 different types of beads and string them on your same string. If they're similar in color, and you're not afraid that the colors will bleed, go ahead and put them together, string them together, and dip them. I know from experience that using the bicone beads with the tube beads is really the best way to go. You break them apart after each dip, turn them over so that they get evenly coated. And right now I'm actually using 2 coats of PC Petrifier first as a base coat, and 2 coats of Vibrance on top of that. Any more than that, you're going to end up getting a little bit too much cakiness, too much pile up of your glaze, and it won't be as smooth as you want it to be on the ends especially. So that's it for now. That's how I make a wrapped bead. Some people might call them origami beads, but since you can use whatever paper you want to cover the top of it, I think a wrapped bead is more the term that I would use personally, but it's up to you. The possibilities are endless with the different types of designs and colors that you can make, and the combinations, and all of that recyclable paper that's out there that you can use. Wow. You could make thousands and thousands. But anyway, that's it. It's enough for today. And until next time, thank you and have a great day. Goodbye.